we are live.
Okay, well, good morning, and I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome the Warden and the members of Middlesex County Library Board and staff to our Tuesday, December 15th Middlesex County Library Board meeting. And I'm going to open up by asking if there's any provisions for disclosure, pecuniary interest, or any general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes of the library board meeting held November 24th, 2020. Is there any questions or comments with respect to those minutes? Okay, I'm going to look for that the minutes of Middlesex County Library meeting held November 24th, 2020 be approved as presented.
So moved.
Mary Gay, I need a seconder. Ruth Adams, any further comments or questions with it? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Sorry I'm late, Jim. I had a tough time hanging up from that last call, but I got it.
Well, good to see you, Bill.
Yeah,
Really?
nice to see you. Hey, good morning, everybody. You're all looking chipper and happy and live. That's good.
We're thrilled.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our action items. Number one is our 2021 draft library board budget, and there's a report from Lindsay Brock. Do you want to take us through this, Lindsay? And I'm going to ask if there's any questions when we're going through it. If I could just notify us maybe because I can't see everybody. I only see a few, but I'll try to get your attention, and we can ask the questions at that time. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat and try and get as many faces on my screen as possible. I am going to share the document, so that will make it harder for you to see everyone. So I apologize for that.
Well, that's okay.
I did, so I sent out the draft document yesterday to the board members. So we'll just be walking through it. We'll go through it line by line today. We did go through about half of it last month, but I'll touch on a couple changes that have happened since then. So overall, the purpose of this report is to present the 2021 net budget submission of $5,624,180, which represents a $339,636 increase over the 2020 budget. The proposed budget reflects a county contribution of $4,328,633, which represents a decrease of $225,140 or 5%. So you'll see once I share my screen and on the document in front of you that we do have a budget or a surplus that's reflected in the 2021 budget. Our service level reductions due to the pandemic resulted in a fairly significant surplus. So this is reflected in the budget, and it helps offset that county contribution. So that relates to those figures that I just read. So I'm just going to share the right copy of my document. Here we go. Okay. Let me get everyone's faces down here. Okay. So the first 3 pages of the document that I sent out are, the overview. That's all of the accounts, and then pages 4 onwards are the breakdown of the budget. So I'll try to keep us organized if you have a printed copy in front of you or whatever you're going off of. Like I said, we did go through about half the budget last month. But we'll go through each of the sections today. So as we discussed last month, it was a challenging budget to create this year, recognizing that there are so many unknowns. We're in kind of an interesting position where it's challenging to plan too far ahead, but we still want to be moving forward with a lot of projects, a lot of initiatives that reflect your new strategic plan and those directives and the strategic plan of the county, so that we are accomplishing what we need to do both in 2021 and over the next 3 years that our plan runs. And I feel that this budget reflects that. There's a number of really exciting projects that we'll go into, particularly in the capital budget portion, that reflect that kind of turning outwards move, bringing the library to the community, keeping those COVID considerations in mind, and moving forward with a lot of initiatives relating to technology and both virtual and in-person services. So I may be bouncing back and forth between the cover page and the individual sections, but we'll start on the revenue section. So page 4 of the document. And so you'll see that, so this portion of the budget we talked a bit about last month. We have our standard operating grant from the province, which is $134,047. We have the $350,000 for the early on service. And then the number that wasn't in the budget last month has been confirmed. So the social services revenue, so that transfer from department to department. So we have 60,000 here for the community navigator position. So that's that community homelessness prevention initiative, where we have that launched that position in September, working out of the library, addressing homelessness and housing insecurity and all of the challenges that come along with it. So 60,000 for there, and then 46,500, which reflects the rental payment that social services pays in order to use space in our branches. So for 2021, because we're making that move from using the Strathroy branch to using library office space, we have rental payments coming in for library office, Glencoe, Park Hill, Lucan, and Dorchester branches. So that's page 1 of revenues. And then if you move on to page 5, you'll see the other portion of revenues that we discussed last month as well. So you'll see we have donations and fundraising. So in 2020, we budgeted 10,000. We're projected to hopefully reach 6,000. We do tend to get a few donations at the end of the year, Christmas presents from our patrons that we really appreciate. So that's what I've built into the 2021 budget here. So 6,000 there. Fines and lost books. So in a typical year, 2020, we had planned 15,000. We expect to get around 4,000 for the year. We have not been collecting fines regularly for overdue books and DVDs throughout the pandemic, so as not to create a barrier for people, who are facing challenges of their own. Also because people don't have as much access to the library, so they can't come in and pay their fines as easily, and because our branches aren't set up with credit card or Interact payment yet. That's another project that we're working on. So we're trying to avoid handling too much cash because of the concern for spreading germs that way. So for 2021, I have budgeted the $4,000, anticipating that we will be in another period of not collecting fines for overdue books. We're still collecting payment for anyone who loses a collection item. And so, probably for half the year, we may not be collecting those fines, and then we'll reassess once we have a higher level of service and people are able to come in and pay more easily. And once we've looked into that credit card and Interact payment, getting that established in our biggest branches to help the staff start to collect those fines again. And then other revenue. So similarly, this is revenue from our photocopier use. So again, use of our computers is down because we have fewer computer appointments open for people to use. We aren't charging anyone for prints related to employment or government information. And that's what we were doing when we were open, last February as well. But we do charge for prints that are of a personal nature and beyond, like 10 pages. We've kind of set a limit. So we are collecting some revenue from that right now and anticipate about $5,000 coming in for next year. So those are our revenue pages. Next, we go to page 6 in your document, salaries and benefits. So the 2021 budget for salaries is $2,419,890. So for 2021, we have anticipated that we'll be at our reduced service level and reduced staffing level for the first quarter of the year. So we have budgeted for that reduced staffing level. And then for April through December, we've budgeted for a typical year. So again, it's one of those budget lines that is challenging to predict when we'll be able to increase service level and increase hours and have a need to draw from that increased staffing budget. But that is the plan that, working with Cindy and with the Treasury Department, that we've put into place. Recognizing that next year, the staffing budget is going to look different than this. You'll see that jump. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well for 2022. We'll see a return back to a more typical staffing budget. So that's why you're seeing that decrease from the 2021 to the 2020 budget. We are still budgeting for that decreased service level for at least the first quarter of the year. And then we move down to the benefits. So this is a rough estimate. We think it's a good estimate at this point. I don't have the confirmed figure from the Treasury Department yet, but I don't anticipate this number will change significantly. But that is one number that may change over the next couple weeks. But this is again, it's a very minor increase from year to year because of that reduced staffing budget. So the two numbers relate to one another there. So after salaries and budgets, we move on to operations, which we did talk about last month, but I've made a couple changes that I'll point out to you here. So on this page, on page 7 of your document, no changes to this page. So we have our travel and travel-related expenses at $20,000. Anticipating that we're not going to be filling as many shifts around the county, so there aren't those mileage claims coming in as frequently. So that's why we've got $10,000 less budgeted for 2021. Library office operations staying the same for the year. Staff training staying the same. The plan for 2021 is to have some virtual staff development days and activities, library related, but also, there's a lot of talk about COVID fatigue, obviously, with staff, how to support staff's, mental health and well-being on the job and at home. So we're looking into some opportunities to get speakers and provide that opportunity for staff this year or in the coming year. Membership staying the same at 2,500, audit the same at 5,000, and then advertising as well remaining the same at 12,000. So that will help support our general marketing and promotions, and then any library signage projects that come up. So one that we have in mind, of course, is Ilderton. The library sign kind of disintegrated from whether and where over the years. And so now it's a good opportunity, obviously, to incorporate the Early On Child and Family Center logo along with the library logo into a combined sign. So we'll be working on that. So that's page 1 of operations. And if you flip to the next page, which is page 8 in your packet, we'll see the other half. So we have our telephone costs remaining the same, 24,000. Cell phone costs, so the few staff who have county cell phones and a few other who receive a regular subsidy if they're on call. One budget line that has changed a bit is our internet costs. So we see them going up about 2,500 for the coming year. And this is reflected in our actuals for 2020. So this is a result of being able to upgrade the service at some branches over the year. So I know we upgraded the IT department. They're always looking for the best service that's available. And when a contract comes due, then it's the opportunity to upgrade. We upgraded the service to Ilderton, and I know we've upgraded Melbourne as well. And so that increased cost is reflected here. And I know that those communities appreciate the better service, especially now when they're maybe using the Wi-Fi from the parking lots more often. So a stronger signal just makes it better for patrons at this point. Bank charges staying the same at 200. Next line is office supplies. So this is a line that I did increase, recognizing that we had that surplus to draw from, and noting that this would be a good budget line to add to for the year. So I came to this figure knowing that we will have ongoing PPE and cleaning supply costs and other things related to the COVID-19 restrictions. So from March until end of November, we've spent about $33,000 on COVID-19 related materials and supplies outside of our usual supply purchasing. So that is how I came to this number of increasing the office supply line from $30,000 to $65,000 for the year. And as well, we'll have all of our regular supplies to buy: paper, toner, pens and pencils, all of the craft supplies that we're using for our take and make kits. All of that comes out of this budget line. Postage and deliveries, I have that staying the same at $40,000. So that will allow us to continue to mail items to people at home, because we are still doing that for those people who can't get out of their homes or choose not to, aren't comfortable with coming to curbside pickup. We still have that option. And then we have our weekly deliveries to branches, so moving new books around. And this also supports any minor upkeep work that our delivery person does, fixing things in the branches throughout the year. We have insurance staying the same, and legal and purchase of service remaining at $5,000. So when we come to the bottom, our total operation budget is $264,700, and that's an increase of $27,500 over the 2020 budget.
Just one question, if I could, Lindsay. When we talk about office supplies and cleaning, and what the cost was in 2020 from March to November, the increase that we wouldn't have been aware of, but does the municipalities like Thames Center and that, do they do additional cleaning now as opposed to what they were doing before?
Not additional cleaning days, but I know
Okay.
that every municipality has, reiterated what needs to happen. So the cleaning of high touch surfaces and making those a priority. So the number of cleaning days have been increased,
Okay.
but that is offset by the cleaning that library staff are doing. So, every branch has their routine, cleaning at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, if they're moving from workstation to workstation, all that, to help offset the fact that we don't have additional cleaning days.
Okay, thank you.
So Lindsay, if I can just jump on, and if you don't mind, Chair.
Go ahead, Morton.
Just further to that, once the branches are open though, that is, you can't have a cleaner in there during the day all the time. So it will fall upon staff. But it might be interesting to know as the doors close each day, will it require more days of a more thorough cleaning at the end of when the branches close for a day?
Yes, and I've had that conversation, brought that to the municipal, like the lower tier CAOs, and conversations with the recreation and community services staff, saying that our schedule will have to align with cleaning days, that really is going to guide how we open, when we open, how far we open to a certain extent. I would say most libraries that are open right now are restricting access to washrooms. So that's one thing that obviously we don't require staff to scrub toilets at this point. And that's kind of a line. We're keeping washrooms open only for staff use. That makes it easy on that level. But yes, when we get to that point, if the health unit still says, things should have that twice daily cleaning, with staff supporting that second cleaning of the day, that will impact what our schedules can look like branch to branch. And the cleaning schedules are different from branch to branch. So it's an ongoing discussion. I know it's challenging for every municipality's budget themselves. I haven't been told that any municipality is increasing the number of days. I have encouraged that and explain what our situation is so that we know what's going on both sides when we're working on that.
Well, I mean, on the flip side, I mean, then that is going to be added expense for municipalities to take on. But I guess going forward too, I mean, even when we're out of this, I suspect that there will be more protocols put on us as public institutions as to how our cleaning is done, and that will just change. I think the one thing that we've learned is, having gone through SARS, the things that we learned through SARS didn't carry forward. I think this will change.
Thank you. Any other questions then so far?
I think Cindy has one.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Thanks. Through the chair, I just want to remind that the municipality also received some COVID dollars from the province. So we'll be able to offset a little bit of those additional cleaning costs anyway, up until probably the end of March. So that was also reflected in the cost that Lindsay presented.
Thank you.
I think Ruth has a question.
Ruth, go ahead.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Yes, I also was going to agree that I believe also that the extra cleaning is going to be with us for quite some time. Would be nice if we could find a compromise in terms of cleaning for the future, because it's unfortunate that library hours might have to depend on the cleaning staff. Like if it comes down to the cleaning not increasing very much, the library may not be able to stay open as long or as often. So I think in the future, that's something would be nice if we could find a solution to make everybody happy. That's all.
Yeah, I just brought it up strictly because of the conversation that went at one time with municipal cleaning and the increased costs with certain aspects of our operation. But I think once we get, and I'll look for some guidance on this, but over the hump, we'll have to decide, what works best for us and what works in fairness with the municipality. And I know that I don't want to get a big push on this, and if it takes a couple extra hours a month, then who picks that up and how it gets handled. But I think to the warden's comment that things will change when it comes to cleaning, and I think we have to be prepared to try to understand it. And I appreciate you putting the additional money in the budget here now, so that we can at least look after the status quo the way we have it now, Lindsay. But it will really depend on how we open further and what we're allowed to do in the future. Thank you. Is there any
Jim, Bill
other
Rayburn here.
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
One of the things that I've heard the warden talk about this before, and so I've been turning my mind to it a little bit, in that it's not if you look at it from an entire county perspective, there's a couple of different nuances to this. One is that availability of cleaners in each municipality is different in Newberry, for example, than it is in Thames Center, for example. And so how do we get a consistent standard when we have all these different, and the municipality is responsible? We can set a standard, but it doesn't necessarily mean the municipality can even meet that standard. And so that's a consistent challenge we have. So then just park that problem, and then think about the other nuance, which is our library employees have a job description and it only goes so far. So park that challenge. Then consider things like land ambulance. Ambulance stations are in a similar boat, both outside with maintenance and inside with cleaning. And I don't really want to pay paramedics to be cleaning and doing that kind of work. So this has got me to a conclusion where I need to be thinking about whether or not, very similar to when we were trying to figure out how we're going to do transportation of books, we need a county-wide type of solution for things beyond just library going forward. So what's that going to look like? Is it going to mean that the county is going to have to employ their own cleaning staff to go from place to place? Likely. I would say that if we're going to place the emphasis that the warden just placed on it in her speaking, I would say that the only way to achieve that is for us to take responsibility for it and to do it at a standard that is higher than can be done in some municipalities through no fault of their own, but also consistently make sure it does happen. Because we're going to look like fools if someone gets sick in our library, gets traced back, and we go, oh, well, we thought Strathroy was doing it to this standard, or we thought Thames Center was doing it to this standard, and we just can't be left wondering. So, and the same thing with land ambulance. So it really has me thinking about a logistics team that only does that. And we're going to have less county building to worry about at some point in the future. And how do I redeploy those resources and think about this in the next couple of weeks to get to that higher standard? And so, frankly, a cleaning team for the county is something that sounds stupid, would have sounded stupid maybe 2 years ago. It doesn't sound so stupid right now. And it's something I'm thinking about. So Jim, if you would like a job doing this.
Okay, I draw the line there, Bill.
So do I, actually.
I would love to do it, but yeah.
Linda won't let you work that much.
Well, she wouldn't want me at that pay grade. So, but
too many taxes.
You know, Bill, I do appreciate hearing that, because when I look at this and I'm looking at a line item, I'm just looking at the budget with respect to the library. But you're right, when you and the warden look at certain issues, they're well beyond just the library. So I appreciate knowing that, because it might be something that comes up where if you go down that path and we have economies of scale where the county does it all, there's a saving to each municipality as well. So I think it's something that should be looked at the way you've suggested, but where it gets to, that's really a county decision. But I know this with the library, I just want to comment that I do appreciate Lindsay bringing up our budget so that we can look after what we can in the interim. And I think it's going to carry out over the next few months. We'll have to figure out a way to handle every aspect within the county. But thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I forgot about roads too, Jim. You wouldn't want me to forget about them, but there's another place that is ripe for that needs that type of extra cleaning. All our little roads departments and offices too, in Gainsborough. So anyways, that's it.
That's right. But you know, Bill, the other thing I do when I go by the land ambulance station, when I walk by that going into the library, for example, you look over and you say, okay, you wonder how that gets cleaned, you know, and how that's looked after, and it's all part of a county service. So I'm just broadening my thinking now on the cleaning issue. But
well, a lot of those leases we have are net leases, so they're done by. I'm not talking about your ambulance station now, Jim, but I'm talking about but that involves a lot of trust, and it involves someone thinking the way the warden just spoke all the way through, even after this pandemic's over, and that we can't guarantee. So the only way to guarantee it is for her to be able to choke a single throat, and that's mine if it doesn't get done right. And so anyways, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask further, is there any other questions then with the budget this far? If not, then Lindsay, we'll just move forward. Thank you.
Thanks. So the next section is collections. So maintaining the $471,000 budget from 2020 to 2021, but shifting funds around. So I think we talked a bit about this last month. So decreasing the money spent on physical books and DVDs, still, you know, definitely enough to maintain our collections and get people whatever books they want physically in their hands, but shifting more money to those digital collections that are seeing much more use. A lot of our patrons have either they're kind of supplementing their physical book checkouts with digital collections, or they've transitioned entirely to just digital. We're seeing a lot more usage of those collections. So we'll be launching our Access 360 collection in January. We had hoped to get it out before Christmas, but just had some delays with the vendor. So that'll be our digital quick pick collection where people can kind of stumble upon the latest bestsellers and not have to wait for them through the long hold lists that we have through Cloud Library. And our other digital collections. So Hoopla and Canopy, all of our streaming services will come under that 158,000. So a significant increase there, recognizing that increased use. Our databases and e-resources, so just allocating 60,000 to those in 2021, so a $2,000 increase from the current year. So this is what funds our online learning platform. So Gale Resources, we're launching a product called Udemy in the new year. That's another platform for online courses people can take to upgrade skills or just learn something new, as well as products like Ancestry Library Edition, which is incredibly popular. Mango Languages and all of our research databases fall under that budget line. Keeping paperbacks at the same level, 18,000. Periodicals, so we've decided to not renew our print magazine subscriptions, recognizing that they don't stand up well to a lot of checkouts, harder to clean and ensure that they are sanitized. With our items being quarantined for 72 hours after returned, if a magazine is a weekly magazine, that cuts, half a week out of circulation. They're often out of date by the time they get back into someone else's hands. So a lot of libraries are moving away from magazines, at least in the short term, but we do still offer access to digital magazines and newspaper subscriptions online, and we are still going to be renewing some newspaper subscriptions moving forward in 2021.
Lindsay,
Yeah,
if I could on that, because you hit a point that I just wanted to bring up, but we're going to reduce the amount of print magazines. But when you talk about newspapers, just so I understand, what can somebody do with respect to newspaper? Like, is it all the local, like the Park Hill Gazette or whatever it's called there, or the Signpost or that? Are those covered in that? The local, I'm going to say more area newspapers, or is it just like the Toronto Star or something like that?
It's just the larger papers that give you digital access. Yes. So it's, like the London Free Press is available through Press Reader and those larger publications. So right now people don't have physical access to local newspapers, and a number of our subscriptions have lapsed. So we are looking to renew those, and then so that we'll have them ready for people when they can visit and read the newspapers. But unfortunately, we don't have digital access to those local newspapers.
Yeah, no, it's just that I was in a conversation with somebody about that, and I thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ruth just had a question in the chat box. She asked who chooses publications for Press Reader, because some popular magazines aren't available. So we actually, just through subscribing, we have access to whatever they have available. So we don't pick and choose what we get. So yes, some magazines aren't available, and I think it's publisher to publisher whether they decide to be included in Press Reader. They're probably competing with like Apple News and those sorts of subscription services. So let me know if there are specific titles, and I can follow up and see if there's another product as well out there for gaps that are there. Like if there's Canadian content that isn't there or specific topics, then just let me know it and I'll follow up on those. So reference, we've cut this to 5,000, and that will likely focus on local history purchases, because traditionally reference materials are used for in-library access only. People don't have access to our spaces right now in that way. So it makes sense to decrease that budget for the year. Audiobooks and talking books, maintaining that budget line at 12,000. DVDs, we are looking to reduce that by 20,000 for the year. Two factors go into that. One is that our juvenile DVD collections aren't being used as much. I think families and kids are streaming everything, or they're watching things on YouTube. They're not looking at DVDs as much as they used to. So that's a consideration when purchasing. And then because movie production slowed down there for a bit, there are fewer new movies to be purchasing. So we feel that 45,000 is a good number for us for the next year. But of course, we'll reevaluate as we go if there are any changes. And then processing charges, because we are purchasing fewer print materials, then we'll have fewer processing charges for those materials. So those are everything from the barcode being placed on an item, the catalog record, the spine label, all of that goes under processing charges from our vendors. So that takes us to our branch development budget, which is on page 10. Again, the overall number staying the same, just shifting a little bit between the two categories. So I'll start at the bottom level number. So this is for our branch programming expenses. So because we are doing less in-person programming, our costs have gone down. So we anticipate that a $15,000 budget for the year, also using supply budget as well as which we normally do, that will be adequate for the coming year. And then that allows us to have a little bit more wiggle room in our branch development budget. So $45,000 for that budget. In a normal year, that money would go towards purchasing new blinds, replacing broken furniture, things that come up throughout the year, steam cleaning of furniture. So we'll have those considerations. And then we'll be able to accommodate any other maybe COVID related purchases that need to be made. You know, I am working on getting the glass counter guards installed at the enhanced branches. And so if something more permanent is needed at the comprehensive branches, that's happening right now. But if something like that is needed at the enhanced branches, then this budget can help support that as well. Next page is our 2021 rent payments. So you'll see a very minor increase from 2021 to 2020, or 2020 to 2021. So, and that is because two of the square footage calculations have changed. So Ilderton, during the renovation, the municipality asked the architect to confirm the square footage of the facility. And it was shown that it's actually 1,916 square feet versus previously we were budgeting based on a square footage of 2,240 square feet. So that number has been verified. That means that our rental payment goes down a bit for that space. And then of course for Strathroy, through the process of evaluating library space, shared space, and early on space, the library portion is that 10,083 square feet versus in 2020, it was 11,052 square feet. So every year you see an increase that's based on that inflation factor. This year that increase is minor because of those two changes to the square footage. Next page will be our automation and our capital budget. So for automation, I've kind of streamlined how it looks based on our three existing codes that we code every invoice to. So software renewals, computer supplies and maintenance, and a new code that we implemented this year, which is software supports and licensing. So it's just, it looks a bit different this year than last, just to streamline things. You'll see that it is a small decrease to the budget, so $129,091 versus $134,643 for 2020. Software renewals, this is everything from Microsoft licensing for all of our computers across the system, our library software, so we pay right around $31,000 a year for our library software, and then everything from Adobe, Laserfiche, which we use for invoices and timesheets, all of that comes under software renewals. Licensing, a big chunk of this relates to our phone system, so we have to renew the licensing for the phone system every year. And then computer supplies and maintenance, this is everything from printing and photocopying charges that are charged through our agreements with the company that we get the printers and photocopiers from. Our just general supplies, a lot of peripherals, so keyboards, mice, all of those small purchases that come up throughout the year. Those fall under that computer supplies and maintenance. So a small decrease for 2021. And then the main focus, a large portion of our budget is shown here for you in the capital budget. So the top section are kind of our regular replacements, our regular capital allocations. So we have $97,850 allocated for hardware replacements. So this is desktops, both public computers and staff computers, laptops for those staff who have laptops, and about 22 iPads are scheduled for replacement in 2021. The bulk of those are the the kids literacy iPads that are located in all of the branches. So those are coming to the end of their life cycle. So they're part of this budget request. Technology for branch programming. So typically we request $20,000 for this technology line for 2021, again, because we can't as easily get technology into the hands of people and use it for in-person programming. We have decreased that request down to $10,000. We are working on strategies, how to use, how to lend or get allow people to use our Oculus kits and our Little Bits kits. We are working on plans for that for 2021 because that technology has been kind of sitting in a closet for a little bit, and we want to get it out and get it used, whether it's partnering with schools or community groups. We're working on a plan for that. So this budget line will help us support that programming. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be in a bit of a different position, and we'll be able to make some exciting purchases for our maker spaces and, continue with those projects that have kind of been pulled on hold for the past few months. New software subscription. So this is for some project management software that a few departments in the county use that we're looking to help us, streamline our project planning, help us communicate a bit better, especially now that some of us are at home, the rest are at multiple branches. Having a platform to help us organize our projects and tasks would be really helpful. So that's what that budget is allocated for. And then I've included a line specifically for the Wi-Fi hotspot project. So this year we did pull from that $20,000 from the technology branch programming budget to launch the pilot project, but I have included $20,000 as a standalone line there to renew it, with the intent that we would renew it at the end of 2021 once we see how that first year of the project goes. So those are the standard replacement items and kind of our standard capital budget. And then we move on to our capital projects. So for 2021, recognizing, that we do have this significant surplus. We were thinking, working with Cindy, with Morgan, with the library team, what sort of projects can we put into place that help our current kind of COVID situation and take those factors into consideration, and also move the library forward and maximize our use of those funds. So that's what we have here for you today to consider. A few of these things we have talked about at our strategic planning session. So the book hold dispenser, this was discussed back in October. So we're looking at deploying this in a municipality that doesn't currently have library services. So looking at like an Adelaide Metcalfe situation, the potential there to, again, turn outward, take the library to the community, bring library services to that municipality in a way that they don't currently have. So either a book vending machine or a holds dispenser, where we've done a bit of a survey of the marketplace to see what's out there. Got a rough idea of an appropriate budget for the machine and all the technology and the project behind it. Brant County is in the process of installing a hold dispenser at one of their municipalities in a fire hall. So I'm going to get more information on that project. I think that it's likely the way that a lot of county systems are going to go to help service those locations that don't have that bricks and mortar physical location. So we would be excited to proceed with that project with that $65,000 budget. The website redesign, again, I think I mentioned this when we were talking about strategic planning. Our current website is built on a version of Drupal that is expiring. So we have to make a decision. Are we going to, renew and upgrade our current website, or are we going to go with something new? Because we do have some challenges with our website. It doesn't do everything we want it to do. It's challenging to work with at times. So this is one of the projects that we'll be working with IT on to see what our options are and what sort of improvements we can make. Excited to enhance our virtual presence that way. The next project is an RFID project. So again, I think I mentioned RFID at the strategic planning session. So radio frequency identification, it's the latest model to enhance and streamline library inventory control. So this project would include tagging all of our collection items with an RFID tag. It's like just something you stick inside the cover of a book or a DVD to help us manage our collections. And then also the other piece of it would be the technology side. So self-checkout machines that make that process, more hands-free, more staff-free. It's all patron directed and simple and easy to do from their perspective. So those would be checkout machines. And then the newest aspect of RFID for libraries are return bins. So when RFID was first introduced to libraries, some of the bigger systems, they set up a return system that was like a series of conveyor belts that would route returned items into different bins depending on what location they needed to be returned to. So it was really outside the scope of what our library system could ever implement because we don't have the space and we don't have that many number of returns. Now what they have are RFID equipped bins that look just like a regular return bin that's in all of our branches, but they have the technology, they're connected to our software system. You drop a book into the bin and it automatically checks it in. It clears it from the patron's account, could put it into a quarantine status for 3 days, because that's what we're doing as a quarantine period, could put it into a standby status until it's returned to a shelf. Right now, one of our biggest challenges is that if someone returns a book on, say, Thursday night to a branch that isn't offering services, it might not be checked in until Wednesday. And so a patron who's checking their account sees that the book is still on their account, gets concerned, calls library staff. Library staff have to follow up, try and find out what the problem is. It's quite time consuming. So with this sort of technology, because the book checks itself in almost, it really frees staff time up and removes that time-consuming task of both handling patron concerns and checking items in. So it's a two-pronged project, the tagging of the collections and then the implementation of the technology that will allow library staff to devote more time to other tasks, other projects, more programming, more meaningful interactions with people, helping them find resources and supports. So we have a rough budget of $250,000 there for that project. It's a significant project, a significant amount of work, tagging every collection item, analyzing what technology we need, all of those pieces. So that would be encompassed in that budget. And then the final project there are branch enhancement projects. So we have 3 branches in mind. Dorchester, we're looking at installing new shelving in the children's area. That's the one part of the library that wasn't touched during the renovation. The municipality has recently painted the room and fixed windows and done that sort of upkeep. So it's an excellent time. The books are already off the shelves. The shelving's off the wall. It's the perfect opportunity to refresh that space and get some new shelving in there that's well needed. And then in Komoka, we're also looking at some additional shelving in the children's area. We worked with a fairly limited budget back in 2010, I believe it was, when we opened that branch. So the children's collection size is quite small in the Komoka branch, and it's a growing community, bursting at the seams basically. So we'd like to add more shelving and enhance that area in the Komoka branch. And then the third project is Lucan. So we would like to move the public computer workstations to another location. So when you walk in the door at Lucan, you immediately walk into the computers. And that's been an issue for privacy and confidentiality because the computers are right outside the office doors, the bookable office spaces. So it's not the best layout. So we'd like to bring, someone in to help redesign the space a bit and help us relocate those computers just to make the traffic flow a bit better and deal with those privacy issues and confidentiality issues that have come up. So those are the 3 branch enhancement projects. And then the final item in the capital budget is a technology replacement reserve. And this is something that the board, you've brought up a few times over the years, or previous board members, is that our hardware replacement budget really fluctuates, can fluctuate significantly from year to year. So if we look at this year, it's only about a $22,000 difference between 2021 and 2020, but sometimes it's $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 difference. And so I know we've had that discussion, and board members have commented that having a reserve for these replacements that we can predict, that we know are coming, that are based on that 4 or 5 year life cycle replacement timeline, that it would be helpful and appropriate to allocate reserve funds for that we can use to manage those changes in the year-to-year budget. And worked with Cindy and Morgan on this as well to make sure that it was appropriate. So that's what we've proposed here for you, is to begin that reserve fund with $150,000. So that brings our capital total to $709,650 for 2021. 2 simple pages left in the budget, and then I welcome any questions. So on page 13, we have the transfer from the library budget to Strathmere Lodge, $9,125, an increase of $144. So these are our daily pickups from library office, taking items to the post office and bringing items back. And it's very, very helpful service that Strathmere Lodge provides with their van. And then we have our early on budget, which stays the same at $300,000 for 2021. So overall, like I said, a lot of exciting projects, a lot of projects that tie into the priorities of the strategic plan. And, we're excited to move ahead with some of these initiatives that will help improve both our virtual and our physical presences at the branches. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, Jim, I think you're muted.
Are there any questions so far? I've got one, Lindsay, with respect to where's the operating cost of the library board? Where's that shown on here? Or is
That
it done?
is like so board member?
Yeah, the cost of us having this board, the cost of the board's conferences and so on that they attend, or expenses with respect to that. Is it shown up here any place, or is it just within the Middlesex County budget?
It is. It's in the administration budget, I believe. Cindy, is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I think we do have a line item, but we don't have a number for it. We call it a bargain at twice the price. That's what we call that line item, Jim.
Well, you seem to have it coded right. So, but no, okay. No, I just wondered about that, Lindsay, because you and I had a discussion about the conference and so on. And I know that it's always a budget item, and it'll be very minor this year compared to what it has been. But okay, I just had a question with respect to that, but if it's not on here, it's not on here, and we'll discuss it another time. But is there any questions in respect to the budget we have in front of us? Okay, seeing none, then there is a recommendation that the 2021 budget estimates be received by the library board and forwarded to the budget committee of the county council for further consideration and approval. Would somebody like to move that? I got moved by Ruth, and I can't see any other hands. Let me just.
Brad's got his hand up.
Brad, okay, and we'll second it by Brad. Any further discussions on it? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move to library policy review, variable lease rates. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So here we have a policy that we've been reflecting on a lot recently. So it just needs to be updated to reflect our early on spaces. So as the report points out, Early On program began the transition to a library administered model in 2018 or 2017, sorry. In 2018, we were successfully awarded the funding for those 2 capital projects in Ilderton and Strathroy. And over the past few months, we have been working on establishing that adjusted lease rate for Early On child and family center spaces in Ilderton and Strathroy, establishing a rate equivalent to 70% of the current enhanced rate set out in the variable lease rate policy. So we just felt we knew that this policy needed to be revised to reflect that language, to ensure consistency and to help establish future lease agreements. So we have obviously one coming up, the next item on the agenda for Ilderton, but also this will impact the Strathroy lease as well. So the attachment to the report, there's 3 sections that are 3 items, 3 areas of changes. So under criteria, I've added some language about Early On child and family centers. So just added Early On child and family centers are defined as dedicated spaces that offer a full suite of Early On programs and services in locations that were built or renovated with funds from the provincial community-based Early On Child and Family Center Capital Program, CBEP. Early On child and family centers are located in the Ilderton and Strathroy Library branches. Under rent rates, we've added section 1.8, where it says the library board will pay Early On child and family center spaces a rate equivalent to 70% of the current enhanced rate. And then under 1.9, the legal department just advised that we add, that we indicate where we get the consumer price index number from. So we added that the consumer price index for Ontario released by Statistics Canada. So that's the source of that information, just clarifying that in the policy. So there is a recommendation there, and I'll happy to answer any questions.
Is there any question with respect to this report? Seeing none, then I look for support. I don't see any hands up, so I'm looking for the support that the Middlesex County Library Board confirms and reviews of the following policy and the recommended changes and additions to the Middlesex County Library policy manual be approved as presented, and the manual be updated according to reflect the changes. Look for a mover. Moved by Warden Kathy Burkhardt Jessup. I need a seconder. Seeing that hands, Lindsay.
Mary Gay.
Mary Gay. Okay. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we'll deal with item 3, which is the Ilderton Library and Early On Childhood and Facility Center lease agreement. Report from Lindsay. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The background for the report, the municipality of Middlesex Center and the library have completed the construction project in Ilderton. We got official occupancy last week. That has created the Early On Child and Family Center attached to the Ilderton Library. So the attached lease agreement for your review is for 1,916 square feet of library space, 1,193 square feet of Early On Child and Family Center program space. So that's the new room on the upper level, and 1,870 square feet of Early On Child and Family Center storage or workspace. So that's the space in the lower level, located at 40 Heritage Drive in Ilderton. And so this agreement that's put forward is between the municipality, the library board, and the county. So the process is it would come to you and then go to county council in January and then back to Middlesex Center for them to review it. So you'll note that the library pays lease on the 1,916 square feet of library space, and then it would be Early On funding that would cover the other spaces. And we have built, so this is a 5-year term lease, but we have built in language into the section on the lower level space, because we're using that kind of in the interim as storage space, as workspace for staff as well. but we don't anticipate necessarily needing it for the full 5 years. So we've built language into the agreement where we have to give 120 days notice. Either party can, but that would be the notice period where if we decide that we don't require that space for early on needs, then we have that way of removing that from the lease. So we have that flexibility built in. Right now, we're using that space because we have a lot of items to store for early on that we can't use because we're not doing, obviously, as much in-person programming across the county. So there are a lot of toys and games and fun stuff there in the basement, unfortunately not being used right now. So we're really, really appreciative of having that storage space. So that is the lease agreement before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Is there any questions with respect to this agreement with the Alderton Library and with Middlesex Center? Seeing none, there is a
Mary Gay has
Mary
a
Gay. Sorry, go ahead, Mary Gay.
That's okay, Jim. No problem. Thank you, Jim. Lindsay, this is just really nothing to do with this per se. Just wondering if, when it's safe to do so, if the library board could have a tour of the facility.
Absolutely, yes. Through the chair to Mary Gay, we had initially, the project was initially going to be done around Thanksgiving. And so we had hoped to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, something for, officials to participate in December, and the construction project, the timing didn't work out. So now we're looking at potentially something around Family Day. Kind of makes sense to align a ribbon cutting ceremony with that event. So maybe the Friday or Saturday before. We're also going to be doing putting together a virtual tour so that the public and anyone who's not at that event, because we'll be limited in terms of numbers of who can be there, so that we can show the space off, but we can definitely arrange a tour. I can do it anytime to show off the space and have Nadine there as well. So I'll get in touch with all of you about that. We can set something up.
Okay. And is there any more questions with respect to this lease agreement? And there is a motion there that the lease agreement between Middlesex, the municipality of Middlesex Center and the Corporation of the County of Middlesex and the Middlesex County Library Board for a 1,916 square foot enhanced library, a 1,193 square foot early on childhood and family center program space, and a 1,870 early on childhood and family storage workspace in Alderton be approved, and that the necessary bylaw be presented to the authorities to authorize the library board chair and CAO sign the lease agreement on behalf of the library board. So I need a mover and a seconder, please.
So moved.
Moved by Mary Gay, seconded by Ruth Adams. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go through the correspondence and information items. And if you'd have to just give a holler if it's something you'd like to speak to in general, but and I'll get Lindsay to comment on any of them. But it's a system e-resource and system internet usage statistics to November 2020 with 2019 for comparison. C2 is accounts payable to November 24th, 2020 and totaling $109,566.86. Item number 3 is curbside pickup and computer appointments. Item 4 is virtual program participation, November 2020. Item 5 is social media activity, November 2020. Item 6 is early on program statistics, September to November 2020. And item number 7 is take and make kits, newspaper articles. Is there any questions or comments on any of those? If not, I look for a motion that item C1 library through C7 library be received for information. I need a mover and seconder. Don't all do it at once. Oh, moved by Mary Gay. I need a seconder. I can't see the whole screen. That's why I'm asking.
Brad, or
Brad? Brad then. Okay, any further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Yeah, I've only got three smiling faces up there in the screen, so at one time, so.
Jim, we're going to give you a virtual, Bailey's going to give you a virtual lesson on how to get it up there after the meeting. There's just a little trick to it.
I'm just getting used to the earphones.
Ha, you look good in those though.
Yeah, right. Is there any inquiries? Okay, under new business. I didn't see any hands go up. So under new business, we'll deal with our next meeting is at 10:30, January 29, 2021. Now, item number 2 is, and there's a complete list of all the next meetings to next December 2021.
Mr. Chair, can I just,
Yes.
one
Yes.
little update before
Yep.
you move on? So, okay, just wanted to update everyone on the Strathroy project. So,
Oh, yes. Yep.
so we are, so we were told on last Monday that we have until January 2nd to clear out the areas that'll be under construction in the Strathroy Library. So very exciting. So this week we're starting to move computers and books and collection areas and everything. So getting to work on that. So I'm sure we'll have some sort of more communication and likely a meeting early in January where so it's nice to get moving on that project. Very exciting. And I did just want to give a little update on early on programming. With the move to red, the numbers in-person program have been restricted. Originally, the province was saying that we were restricted to 5 people in a program, which would really limit, right now in Ilderton, we're running in-person programs for, I think 3 or 4 families maximum, all pre-registered, all following all the right protocols. We just got an email that MLHU is indicating that the facility capacity is 10 people, including staff. So that will mean that we have to adjust the numbers both in our Ilderton in-person programming and in Strathroy as well. That's happening at the West Middlesex Arena. So I just wanted to let you know about that change that came about this week.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
It's Joanne.
Oh, Joanne, how are you?
No, not bad.
Go
Through you to Lindsay, when will the communications go out about what's happening at the library? Because I can tell you, I'd rather get ahead of the communications than the things I'm reading on social media where people get ahead of us and don't know what's going on and have all kinds of questions that end up with really bad outcomes.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Vanderheyden, I'll be working on that this week, and I'll make sure that, working with Rob as well to make sure that the messaging is the same and that we're all on the same page and that we're working together to communicate how positive this project is, and so that people understand, because the library is going to be closed a couple days in between Christmas and New Year's, so that the staff have the time to work on that. So it will impact service in the short term in that way. So yes, we're working on that this week, and we'll make sure to touch base with your staff to coordinate that.
Thank you, Joanne. Any other follow-up on that with respect to the early on? Okay, seeing done, then we'll move to bylaws. Item 2 for bylaws, and there are 2 bylaws. A is a bylaw to enter into a lease agreement between the Middlesex County Library Board, the Corporation of the County of Middlesex, and the Corporation of the Municipality of Middlesex Center with respect to leasing the Ilderton Library and the Early On Childhood and Family Center. And the other item, the next bylaw is a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the county, of Middlesex County Library Board. I look for first and second reading of the bylaws be given. You see any hands there, Lindsay?
The warden.
Warden,
And
okay.
Councillor
And Councillor
Richards, Brad.
Richard. Okay. You got a mover and seconder. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now I'll move to third and final reading and confirming the bylaws be given. Your mover and seconder, Mary Gay.
Yep.
Moved it. I need a seconder.
Ruth.
Ruth. Okay. Thank you, Ruth. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, I move for a motion for adjournment. Moved by Brad, and seconded by Ruth. All in favor? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.